What happens when a princess decides to marry in complete secrecy and accidentally steals the spotlight from one of the most powerful women in the British monarchy? The story of Princess Beatrice's wedding is not just about romance and royal tradition, it's about a moment that shook the very foundations of palace protocol and left Queen Camilla standing in an unexpected shadow on what should have been one of her most celebrated days. Before we dive deep into this extraordinary royal tale that combines secrecy, tradition, and unprecedented drama, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like icon, and share this video with everyone who loves untold royal stories. Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this story will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about modern royal weddings. The date was July 17, 2020, and the world was still grappling with unprecedented global challenges when Princess Beatrice, the eldest daughter of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, made a decision that would ripple through royal history. While most royal weddings are meticulously planned spectacles witnessed by millions, Beatrice chose something radically different, an intimate ceremony so private that even most members of the royal family didn't know it was happening until after the vows were exchanged. The venue was the Royal Chapel of All Saints at Royal Lodge in Windsor, a location steeped in history but rarely used for such significant occasions. This wasn't just any chapel, it was a place where royal secrets had been kept for generations, where the walls themselves seemed to whisper tales of discretion and dignity. Princess Beatrice married Edoardo Mappoli-Mazzi, an Italian property developer with his own aristocratic lineage, in a ceremony that included fewer than 20 guests. Among those select few were Queen Elizabeth herself, who would pass away just 2 years later, and Prince Philip, making this one of the last royal weddings the beloved Duke of Edinburgh would attend before his death in 2021. The bride wore a vintage Norman Hartnell dress borrowed from her grandmother, the Queen, a gown originally worn by Elizabeth in the 1960s. The tiara adorning Beatrice's head was the same Queen Mary diamond fringe tiara that Elizabeth herself wore on her own wedding day in 1947. These weren't just fashion choices, they were profound statements about continuity, family bonds, and respect for royal heritage. But here's where the story takes its most intriguing turn and why this wedding became so historically significant. July 17 wasn't just any date on the royal calendar. It was the 15th wedding anniversary of King Charles, then Prince of Wales, and Camilla Parker Bowles, now Queen Camilla. Their wedding in 2005 had been controversial, overshadowed by decades of public scrutiny about their relationship and its role in the breakdown of Charles's marriage to Princess Diana. By 2020, Charles and Camilla had worked tirelessly to rehabilitate their image, to show the world that their love was genuine and their partnership beneficial to the monarchy. Their 15th anniversary was meant to be a milestone, a moment to reflect on how far they'd come and to celebrate their enduring union. Instead, the headlines that should have focused on Charles and Camilla's anniversary were dominated by news of Beatrice's secret wedding. The timing wasn't intentional, according to palace insiders. The COVID pandemic had already forced Beatrice to postpone her original wedding plans from May 29, and the couple simply wanted to marry while the Queen and Prince Philip were still in residence at Windsor and while restrictions briefly allowed for small gatherings. Nobody at the palace allegedly realized the date's significance to Charles and Camilla until it was too late, or perhaps, as some royal watchers suggest, the oversight was more telling than any deliberate slight could have been. The media frenzy that followed was immediate and intense. Every major news outlet that had prepared anniversary retrospectives on Charles and Camilla suddenly pivoted to cover Beatrice's surprise nuptials. Photographs of the young princess in her grandmother's vintage dress, looking radiant and genuinely happy, flooded social media. The romance of the secret ceremony, the intimacy of the guest list, and the poignant symbolism of the Queen's presence all combined to create a narrative far more compelling than a standard anniversary acknowledgement. For Charles and Camilla, it must have felt like history repeating itself in the cruelest way, once again finding their moment eclipsed by younger, more photogenic royals. What makes this situation even more complex is the existing tension within the royal family regarding Princess Beatrice and her sister Eugenie's positions. As daughters of Prince Andrew, whose reputation had been severely damaged by his association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, Beatrice and Eugenie occupied an awkward space in the royal hierarchy. They were princesses by birth, granddaughters of the Queen, yet they didn't perform official royal duties and had to maintain their own careers. Prince Andrew's scandals had already created distance between him and the rest of the family, with Charles reportedly keen to slim down the monarchy and limit which family members received public funding in official roles. The wedding, therefore, wasn't just a personal celebration but a statement about family loyalty and the Queen's continuing support for her granddaughters despite their father's controversies. Elizabeth's presence at the ceremony, lending her personal dress and tiara, attending in person despite her advanced age and the health restrictions of the pandemic, sent a clear message about where Beatrice stood in her affections. This implicit endorsement by the monarch gave the wedding a gravitas that transcended its small scale, and in doing so, made it impossible for the media to treat it as a minor family event. For Camilla, the overshadowing must have been particularly painful given her long journey to acceptance. She had endured decades of public hostility, blamed by many for the breakdown of the fairy tale marriage between Charles and Diana. She had worked methodically to win over both the royal family and the British public, taking on hundreds of charitable engagements, supporting causes close to her heart, and gradually transforming her image from that of the other woman to a respectable senior royal. Her wedding to Charles, though officially recognized and celebrated, had been a relatively subdued affair compared to his first wedding to Diana, held at Windsor Guildhall rather than Westminster Abbey, without the full pomp and circumstance typically afforded to a future king's marriage. By their 15th anniversary, Camilla had achieved significant milestones. Public opinion polls showed growing acceptance of her role. She had been made a Dame Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order by the Queen. Plans were already in motion for her to eventually become Queen Consort when Charles ascended to the throne, a title that once seemed impossible given the public sentiment against her. This anniversary represented not just a marriage milestone but a vindication of sorts, proof that persistence and dedication could overcome even the most difficult circumstances. Then came Beatrice's wedding, unintentionally but decisively stealing that thunder. The coverage wasn't malicious toward Charles and Camilla, but it was comprehensive and enthusiastic in a way that anniversary coverage simply couldn't match. A surprise royal wedding, especially one so intimate and touching, was inherently more newsworthy than a milestone anniversary, no matter how significant that anniversary might be personally to those celebrating it. Royal experts and commentators debated whether the date clash was truly accidental. Some pointed out that the palace has an entire team dedicated to managing the royal calendar, avoiding conflicts, and ensuring that each family member's important moments receive appropriate attention. How could such a significant oversight occur? Others defended the decision, noting that pandemic restrictions created unprecedented challenges for planning, that windows of opportunity were limited, and that the Queen's presence was essential to Beatrice's vision for her wedding. With both Elizabeth and Philip in their 90s and with uncertain health situations, waiting for a more convenient date might have meant missing the chance for them to attend at all. The incident highlighted broader questions about hierarchy and consideration within the royal family. Charles, as heir to the throne, had spent his entire life waiting for his moment to reign, carefully managing his public image and that of his wife to ensure a smooth transition when the time came. Yet here was a younger family member, one not even in the direct line of succession, whose personal happiness took precedence over commemorating his marriage milestone. Was this a sign of the Queen's priorities, valuing her granddaughter's immediate joy over her son's long-term image management? Or was it simply an unfortunate coincidence in an already challenging year? The public reaction split along interesting lines. Younger audiences, particularly those active on social media, celebrated Beatrice's wedding as romantic and refreshingly modest compared to the typical royal spectacle. They appreciated the intimacy, the sustainable choice of wearing a vintage dress, and the focus on family rather than fanfare. Older generations and traditional royal watchers were more divided, with some viewing the date choice as disrespectful to Charles and Camilla, whether intentional or not, while others saw it as much ado about nothing, arguing that multiple family events can coexist without diminishing each other. What cannot be disputed is the historical significance of that July day in 2020. It marked one of the last major royal family gatherings before Prince Philip's death, one of the final occasions when Queen Elizabeth appeared publicly during the pandemic, and a moment when the personal happiness of a young princess inadvertently overshadowed the carefully managed narrative of a future king and queen. The photographs from that day, officially released by the palace, show a genuinely joyful Beatrice, a proud and loving queen, and a family moment untainted by the usual formality of royal occasions. They captured something authentic in an institution often criticized for being out of touch and overly concerned with protocol. As we look back on this extraordinary day, it raises fascinating questions about what truly matters in royal life, whether personal happiness should ever be postponed for institutional considerations, and whether the most memorable moments are the grand public spectacles or the intimate family celebrations that remind us that even royals are, at their core, simply people navigating the same joys and challenges as the rest of us. The legacy of Princess Beatrice's wedding isn't just about a beautiful ceremony or a fashion moment, it's about a day when love, family, and spontaneity triumphed over careful planning and protocol, even if it meant that history would remember it as the day a princess's joy eclipsed a queen-in-waiting's milestone. So here's the question that will keep royal watchers debating for years to come. When family happiness conflicts with institutional protocol and public image management, which should take priority? And did Princess Beatrice's wedding prove that sometimes the most meaningful royal moments are the ones that break all the rules?